Welcome back to Henderson, Nevada. I am Zach Marion here at the USATF 100 Mile Championships at the Jackpot Ultras. I am joined by our men's 100 mile champion, course record holder, and one of only 3 gentlemen to have ever gone under the 12-hour mark in the 100-mile distance, Rajpaul Pannu. Thank you for joining me. Congrats, first and foremost, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm glad to be back, a little bit healthier and kind of, fresh and not dead at the finish line,
Right, yeah. So for those who are just let him go take a nap for a few hours, which apparently you didn't get a whole lot of sleep. We'll go over that. But yeah, so this is yesterday. You finished the race. You got to go home, get a little bit of rest, get the feet up a little bit. Joining us back here this afternoon as we're watching the rest of our finishers come in. I'm not sure if you knew this, but we have 7 octogenarians on the course, 80-year-olds on the course. Only one of them has DNF'd this far, and they're all still continuing on.
Only one of them?
Only one of them
Okay.
has fallen off. We have 6 more still out there making their laps. So you've gone home. You've had some meals, you've had a shower, you got a little rest.
Yeah.
They've still been powering through.
They're called octogenarians.
Those are 80-year-olds.
80 plus?
Yeah, 80 plus.
I have a quick story. I think the funniest conversation, I cut through 2 of them. This was like maybe hour 3 and 4. And I overheard their conversation, and one of them was like, I can't hear, I can't see that well. I keep telling my girlfriend, what good use am I to you? And I just thought it was kind of hilarious. That was like the one conversation that I heard, and I just couldn't help but to laugh. I was kind of miserable. I mean, I was miserable the entire time, but when I heard that, I just kind of got a chuckle out of it.
It was just one of those things that just makes you laugh out there. And that's one of the unique aspects of these loop courses, is that you do get to see everybody else in the field multiple times. You've got several different races going on right now. You've got the 48-hour, you've got the 100-mile USATF, you've got the 100-mile long course. Now on the course, you also have our 50-milers and 12 hours going out there. So what was that like to be out there on the course amongst so many other competitors? You were never really running with anyone, but you also were always around people. How was that experience?
Yeah, no, it was great. The atmosphere was tremendous. People were cheering you on. I recall, I think his name is Ed. He wears a Joker costume, and he does.
Yep, the jester.
Yeah, 48 hours, and he was giving everyone high fives. And I was just like, man, he is literally out there right now. It's hour 29, so oh my gosh, he has 19 more hours?
Still going at it.
Yeah, I just don't know how some.
I mean, people are blown away by what you've done, but on the opposite end, there are people who are out there still going and continue to make it happen. I think it's really fun dynamic here in this sport specifically, that when you do these timed events, you've got people like you and Ashley Paulson and others who really want to push the pace and get that 100-mile done.
Yeah.
But then also there's the other end, like our 80-year-olds out there still going, our 48 hours that are just getting in the laps. It's not about speed. It's about just continuing and suffering the attrition well. But you had your own little bit of attrition out there. What were the darkest parts of your race going for that 100 miles?
As you might have seen, like mile 18, my foot was kind of stiffening up. And there's a portion, I recall you guys filming it, but I had to stop and stretch mile 18. And, to give context, I have 82 more miles, and I was like stretching out my calf. It just didn't feel right. And I was wearing carbon plated shoes that were a little bit more aggressive. And then I switched out to less aggressive carbon plated shoes. So I just had to stay calm the entire time. But the way I divided, there's Ed.
There he is.
The way I divided up these segments was 50, 69, 74, 80, 90, 95. So when it was mile 18, in my head I was just like, I have 32 miles left.
Right.
That's the way I perceived it. I was just like, get to mile 50.
Nice. I like that. That's a unique approach to like kind of cutting it up and just shooting for those mile marks. I was out on the course doing my little shakeout, and we bumped into each other. And I remember you asking me, like, how do you do this back half?
Yeah.
This is your first, for those who don't know, this is your first 100-mile finish. So this is uncharted territory for you, getting really past that 60K mark. Is that correct? Or sorry, 100K mark.
The 100K mark. Yeah,
Right.
that's
So
right.
62 miles. I'm getting my miles and my kilometers mixed up, as a
think
true
we always do
American
that.
does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what was it like getting past that 100K mark and going into really the unknown, the darks, the depths?
Yeah.
Like, what was that like for you mentally looking into that part?
The phrase that I had kept in my head that was very repetitive. I kept telling myself, like, don't, like, stop being sorry for yourself. It was weird. It just something that just transpired, like, in my head. When I had 50K left, and because I was trying to go from 69 to 74, which would have been a marathon, but those, like, 5 miles, I was just like, I was still trudging on, but I can tell that I was slowing down as the miles were clicking off. But I saw Ashley, and then I would say I'd pass her like once an hour or 70 minutes. She was always really cheerful and had high energy. And for one, I'm like, how do you have so much energy? And two, I was just like, just stop being sorry, like,
Yeah.
and really just get back in it. And 69 to 74, I would say, was probably the toughest.
That makes sense. I think that there's, at least my experience has always been, it's that like 70% of the race in, usually around like 60 to 70% of the race, no matter what the distance is. If it's 100K, it's a 50K, a marathon, a 100 miler, usually that like 60 to 70% of the race is always the hardest for me, because you've gone past 50.
Yeah.
And like that 50-mile mark, or that 50% mark, is always exciting. You're like, oh, sweet, I'm more than halfway done.
Yeah.
And that usually carries you a little bit. But that 60 to 70 is like, oh no, there's a lot left. And I start to get into my own head. When you got into your head, was there any tricks you did? Was there anything that you told yourself, other than saying, hey, quit being sorry for yourself?
Yeah.
That was just like, focus back on the legs. Like, get out of my head, get into my legs, focus back on the pace. Was there anything? We noticed you were tapping the...
Yeah, that randomly helped. Tapping the guardrails and counting them. I like made it a game. I had to tap every single one and not miss, and that kept me. That would distract me.
Nice. So just like mental games you were playing with yourself.
Weird mental games. I think I told you guys I was like thinking about alien conspiracy theories from like 80 miles until like almost 90-ish.
Yeah.
I was just all over the place.
I mean, there's you're always trying to ride that line between, like, I want to be disengaged from the pain, but I want to be engaged into the race.
Yeah.
And there's that middle ground you're trying to find, and sometimes you're just kind of yo-yoing back and forth. Sounds like you truly experienced a 100-miler out there, even though it was only 12 hours. I don't know if I give you credit for a full 100-miler if you only ran for 12 hours. I think that's kind of cheating a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so.
Game. You gotta go into the depths of like a full night of losing sleep. That's when you really appreciate doing a tough 100-miler.
Oh man.
But what you did out there was definitely no small feat. You are actually one of only 3 American males to have ever gone under the 12-hour mark for 100 miles. Most notably Zach Bitter being the most recent with, his world record performance on a different kind of course than this. Mm-hmm. Was that your goal, to shoot under 12 hours? Did you have another goal in mind? Like, let the audience know kind of what you were anticipating for the day.
The goal was 6:42 pace. I was going for the American record.
Okay.
That's what I trained for. I felt like I was pretty fit to do it. I didn't anticipate the weather being that warm. I think it played a factor for sure. And then I had my crew member, like, after a certain point, he was just completely in charge of giving me fluids, giving me gels, and reminding me to stay on it, because I just like lost track. And to be honest, very early on. But not to give you context, I ran 5 hours and 2 minutes for a 50 miler 2 weeks after Javelina. So I was just like, why can't I just go through 50 in five, in like 5:39, 5:38 pace, you know? But the 100, I mean, it's just a different beast. I still have to figure it out myself. But the 100, I mean, it's just a different beast. I still have to figure it out myself.
Yeah. Which is scary. I mean, the fact that this was your first 100-mile finish, and you were able to do so well, does this give you encouragement to want to come back and keep taking that time down and hopefully shooting for that American record? Is that kind of the future for Raj?
I want to get into the trails. I think you have to mix it up and have that healthy relationship. If I'm seeking, and I'm not saying that you can't do it, but if I'm seeking the next 100 road race, or if I'm doing like any more than one per year, I think you can burn out really easily. And that's something that I don't want to do. So I really need to mix it up. And even like run a marathon and train for a marathon and get like some turnover, you know, and have that strong running economy. So if I want to do the longer stuff, it feels quote unquote easy.
Right. No, I love that. And that's something that, you know, you and I are both Denver, you know, Coloradans, and I get a little bit more of an insight into your training following you on social media. Lightning Raj, for those that aren't following, definitely need to follow you. You post a lot of your training in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that I admire about you is I don't feel like you leave any stone unturned. You're always looking for the ways to maximize your potential as an athlete, whether it be, you know, red light therapy, whether it be getting in those miles on the treadmill and doing, you know, slight inclines, your nutrition, all of that stuff. You kind of really dial it in. Is there anything that you maybe tried differently for this particular training block leading into this that you kind of want to share with us that you're going to be taking into your future training?
Well, I bought a Nordic Track treadmill.
Nice.
Coincidentally enough, I saw your handsome face on it. I'm like, wait a minute. Like,
this guy?
We met a week before I bought the Nordic Track, and then you didn't tell me you're an iFit trainer, so I saw your face on it. I'm like, wait, he's also an iFit trainer? You're telling me that you coach, that you run, and I didn't know you did that as well. So I just thought that was kind of uncanny in some ways. But I got on the treadmill. As you know, Denver, there are days when you can't do a workout, especially for me having a full-time job.
Right.
And it was just nice I was actually doing hybrid training because I was considering Black Canyon. So I was doing treadhill reps. It was a college workout where I'd run half a mile up, 10% incline, take a minute rest. It's a lot harder than it sounds.
That's a pretty aggressive workout.
Yeah.
That's a good aggressive workout. So the treadmill was part of your plan coming into this, and I know that you were bouncing between Black Canyon and this race, and it sounds like you felt like you'd have a better chance here, which, I mean, lo and behold, you are the USATF national champion at this point for 2024. You've set an incredible race here, and you also find yourself gravitating between road and trail, short and long. I think that sets you up really well for a great career and a great future. You're still pretty young. You have a lot ahead of you. What are some things that you're looking forward to in the future, near or far? What are some of your goals that you have outside of, it sounds like this American record you kind of want, so we're definitely going to see you coming back to this. But anything else? What are you looking forward to?
Goals to win Javelina 100. Ran the 100K. Now I have an idea as to how to run it, and I feel like I'm in a good position. I feel like it's the perfect trail race for me personally. Like, it's like nice buttery. It's not super technical, and I feel like I have a nice strategy going forward, trying to attack that. So
nice. I love it. It's something that I again admire about you, is you're strategic and intentional in everything you do. Every mile you do has a purpose and an intention, and I think that really pays off. I know I've spoken with Zach Bitter at length about his training when he set the record, and yeah, it's definitely everything you do has to have that level of intentionality to it. There's no just random miles, just getting this in. It's with intention, and you do that very well. So I'll be excited to maybe show you some trails in Denver, and I'll make you work on those downhills, and I'm sure you'll crush me on the ups and the flats. But yeah, we'll have some fun out there. Some other questions I kind of really wanted to ask you was, How did you feel your pacing and your planning went yesterday? What would you change if you were to come back? If you were to do this race again tomorrow,
Yeah.
what would you have changed? What would you implement?
I probably would have worn non-carbon plated shoes. Yeah, something was just off, like early on, a little too early.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because I can run with those shoes if I'm running like a 50 mile, but the 100 mile, because I think my gait's a little different, the way I'm striding, and it makes a huge difference. So, different shoes for sure. But everything else, I don't have no other regrets, honestly.
You said you felt like it was getting a little hot out there. What were you doing in terms of like cooling? What was your strategy for that? I mean, for those who weren't watching, yesterday the high was like 68, 69 degrees. It wasn't super hot, but the sun was out.
Yeah.
And there is no shade on this course whatsoever. So there's no relief from that sun. And you get that for hours on end. What were you doing to cool off and to handle that?
I wore an ice bandana every other loop for about, from what I recall, after the first hour, when I first put it on, I was like, man, it's really cold. But then I also realized that sunset's like around 5, and I probably had like another 9, 10, 11, 12, God, like 8 hours of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also counting down the hours. I'm like, okay, only 3 more hours until like the sun's out. And I saw it slowly
Move
set,
over the sky.
move over and set. And that was also a sense of relief, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
But that, and then ice water on the head, chest. But just making sure that my body temperature was cool. And then, because if the sun is shining down on you and you're trying to digest like your nutrition, your stomach is going to, or I guess the blood flow is going to go towards your skin.
Right.
So that's going to take away from your stomach, and that's how people have GI distress.
Right, exactly. You're exactly right on that. Blood has to get closer to the surface of the skin to release some of that heat to cool your core temperature down, and it doesn't want to just sit in the stomach and stay warm there. So no blood in the stomach. You're not digesting.
I gave a very elementary explanation.
I love it. So what was your nutrition plan going into this? What were you using out there?
I was using GU, Roctane, caffeinated, non-caffeinated, and then every 3rd, 6th, and then my 9th loop, I would take half a stroopwafel.
Okay, so you're mixing some solids in there as well.
Yeah, just to make sure that I don't have any fatigue. There were, I think, on 2 occasions I drank Coke. Also had liquid IV. I was just, but at a certain point, if I felt like I needed to eat, if I felt like I needed to drink, I would do it.
You're just kind of running a little more intuitively in that way.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot about make sure you get this, make sure you get that, and some people aren't paying attention to what their body needs.
Yeah.
So,
and I lost track for this 100, so.
Yeah, I mean, you had a great crew out there. I got the chance to talk to BJ. Sounds like you guys, used to run together quite a bit. What's your relationship with him?
I actually met him at CIM. It was a marathon, and we saw each other. We didn't say anything. He gave me a fist bump, and then later down the line, I was running for Hoka. He was working for Hoka.
Okay.
So we met at the trials, hung out, and then I told him I was moving out to Denver, and he was living in Longmont, which is like I want to say like an hour away from Denver.
Yeah.
And he actually drove down to Denver to meet up for a run. And like I was just like, wow, like you made time, to come down to see me at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we've just been really good friends since.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned 8 o'clock in the morning. I personally know you're not a super fan of. You do have a full-time job. Let people know what it is that you do full-time and how you manage this level of training. I mean, your weekly volume is considerably high.
Yeah.
So let people know how you get that many miles in while also doing a full-time job, and kind of a little insight into what your daily life is.
So I teach math at a continuation school. This is a school for kids who've dropped out. These kids, quote unquote, are anywhere between the ages of 14 to 22. So that takes a lot of my time. I'm on my feet. I wear an Oura ring. Sometimes I'll like gauge like my stress levels, and it's saying that I'm stressed. I'm like, of course, I'm a teacher. I'm naturally
Right.
gonna be stressed. And then I would sneak out during lunchtime to go for like small runs, an hour at the most.
Right.
Come back, and then I would do like my second run later in the evening. Come to find out, especially during the winter, when the sun sets a lot earlier, that if I were to do 2.5 hours after work, one, that just sounds like a tall order,
Right.
you know, and just being like, damn, like I don't want to go for this run right after work. But two, you're just like wired after,
Yeah.
and then you can't really wind down. I'm only speaking from experience.
Yeah. Personal experience there, right?
Yeah.
So you work full time. You're a teacher. You still get in this high volume. Does your season kind of ebb and flow in terms of where you put your attention,
Yeah.
or do you try to maintain that high volume all the time?
There are definitely ebbs and flows, and this is probably the most mileage that I've done. I had to be a little bit more creative this time around, i.e. treadmill. One of the things that has allowed me to run more, for one, and then two, um, I only have so much time off from work, so I schedule races and structured training surrounding like around that, and then I also make sure to take time off. Granted, not too much time, maybe 3-4 weeks throughout the course of the year, but there are dips where I don't run as much, and you kind of just need that mental break along with a nice physical break. Get your body slowly, recovered and ready for the next training
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah, it's a slingshot effect, right? You got to pull back to launch off, and I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
that's a great way to look at it. And I think that's what leads to your success here. I mean, you're not just successful here at this. This is your first foray into the 100-mile short course, really fast. 100-mile type stuff. You're no stranger to running 50 milers, 100Ks. We've seen you take down the Javelina course record. You had a great battle this last year with Ryan Miller at the Kauai 50. No stranger to fast things and trails. But this is kind of a new experience for you in terms of actually, you came out here a number of years ago,
Yeah.
and did not get the 100-mile
Yeah.
finish. So how did that factor into you? Like, did you have that like chip on your shoulder, redemptive, like,
Yeah.
I'm out here to
Yeah.
prove to myself, to everyone else, that I can do this?
Yeah, absolutely. To give you guys context, I ran and DNF'd in 2021. The race happened in April, so the conditions weren't the most ideal yesterday, but they definitely weren't ideal back in April because it hit, from what I recall, like mid to late 80s.
Oof.
That
hot
day.
day.
Yeah, and I was very naive. I ran a solid 100K for Carbon X2, and I used the same nutrition and fueling strategy, but I wasn't cooling off. My crew person was my mom, and I dropped really early that year, but I made it a thing to watch Zach win. One, because he's a stand-up guy, but also two, just to like feel what it's like to DNF and watch somebody like win the thing and just be like,
Yeah.
you know what, like I'll be back down the line. But I also recall like going back into the hotel, my mom being tired, and I just felt like I had let her down because she was crewing, she was out in this heat,
Right.
and then like I didn't finish the race, and she drove from the Bay Area to Vegas, and then I drove back home with her. So it was just a long car ride.
Right.
So I really just wanted redemption, and I'm glad that I was able to get it.
Something just like, I'm thinking of NFL when you get that photo of the one of the team members who
Yeah,
loses,
yeah.
just watching the other team celebrate.
Yeah.
Like, I just envision you just sitting there watching Zach finish and just like hands behind your back, like, yeah, it's gonna be me. I'm coming back.
The
Like,
Stephon
I want
Diggs.
exactly
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs. I want this to hurt. I want to take this in so I
Yeah.
remember this. Man, I love it. You had a great race. You came back really, really strong, even though you felt like you kind of dipped off a little bit there. I mean, you didn't get the record you wanted, but you still walked away with a USATF championship. You still walked away with a sub 12-hour 100 miler, which only happens once every handful of years at best. I mean, you did some amazing things, so definitely keep your head high for that. you've got a lot to learn. It sounds like you did learn a lot here. You want to implement a few things. I see a great future for you, not only in these looped courses, but it also makes me really excited. You taking this speed and this dedication and discipline into the trails a little bit more, and pulling some of that competition into the depths with what you're capable of doing out there. So, Raj, thank you so much for joining me out here. I do want to give you a hot second to finish the last two questions that I always like to ask.
Okay.
What makes you you, and what makes you unique in this sport?
To give context, I was overweight in high school, and my dad passed away from a heart attack. My mom was just like, you need to do something about this. So it was December 31st of 06, ripped the back of what I thought it was a cereal box, but it was actually a notepad, or just like what do you call that? Like the back of a...
It's like a little, like a binder,
a binder. Yeah. And I just wrote down goals, and I was just like, run the mile in under 6 minutes and 10 seconds and lose X amount of pounds. And I was able to do that, and I just felt like I had a chip on my shoulder ever since.
Dude, I love that. You and I have a very similar history in that regard. I don't know if you know, I used to be 245.
What?
That was my peak weight.
What was this?
I was 23, 24, and same thing. Just decided I had enough. Like, I didn't want to live like this anymore.
Damn.
And got into running, which led into trail running. So, man, dude. Fat kids for life.
Yeah,
man.
There we go.
Share that for sure. Absolutely love it. That is a unique way to get into the sport, and I think it shapes a lot of who we are. I think you and I personally could have a huge conversation off screen about that, and kind of the chip on your shoulder that you bring into life with that, and wanting to prove yourself consistently. That makes you. I think that adds, at least for me in my career, it's added to my strengths. Sometimes I look back, I'm like, man, I don't have the high school and the college career that these other guys have, but I have a different set of life experience, and maybe I even have less miles on my body, and it'll take me longer. So yeah, dude, I appreciate you sharing that. That's definitely an awesome insight into who Raj is. I love it. You bring something really unique to the sport. Something everyone else also loves is your hair. I can tell you got so many compliments yesterday on the live stream of like best hair on the course, best hair in the sport. People, I think you need to go for like a Vidal Sassoon like sponsorship, or Old Spice, someone. We need to get you out here, get you sponsored by some kind of hair care product brand. But I do want to give you a second to shout out some thanks to whomever you want. The mic is yours. Give anybody you want some love right now, because I know this is a very selfish sport. We look at it as an individual sport, but it takes a team to get us here. It takes inspiration from others. The mic is yours. Shout out whoever you want right now.
Yeah, sure thing. I just want to shout out my mom. She raised me as a single parent. She worked really hard. She doesn't understand what I really do, but you know what? I dedicated the second to last loop to her. It was painful, and I just wanted to, I just wanted to show her how I love her. So shout out to my mom.
I love that, man. I love that. You're a sponsored athlete with Hoka. They were out here supporting you really well. I'm sure that plays into your game, having the best products that work well for you. You've got a lot of support out there. You've got a lot of love from the fans. And dude, you're always going to have a lot of love from me. So thanks for sitting down with me and having a great conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
We'll connect out in Denver, but until then, we're going to get you out of here so you can go get those feet up, recover a little bit, and enjoy your time here in Vegas.
Yeah, thank you, Zach, and I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.